Hi, I'm David Leitch, the director of The Fall Guy, and this is Freeze Frame with British Esquire.
Just wondering, after this movie, if I don't go to prison, and you're not busy, maybe we could go to a beach somewhere. Wear a couple of swimming costumes.
Just drink a spicy margarita or something.
Yeah, make some bad decisions.
Okay, sure, yes.
Yeah, this first scene that we're talking about here is Ryan's character on the Ultimate Arm. Ultimate Arm is a camera vehicle that we use when we shoot action sequences to usually like in a car scene or something where we want to be able to move the camera in a really dynamic way. And I thought it was interesting in early conversations with the stunt team that since it's a movie about making a movie, wouldn't it be fun if we were using the tools of these action films that we make to actually do an action scene? And so it was one of the first things we sort of R&D'd was this. We went to special effects and we're like, we want to make a crane arm, an ultimate arm, or sometimes it's called a Russian arm. We needed to make it weight bearing. We needed to have safety protocols on it, and you couldn't really just jump on a normal camera arm like this and expect it to go around. So the special effects did an incredible job in building this. It took months to build it, and then we sort of incorporated it into the action in the third act. But then, obviously, all great action scenes, if you look, they need to be related to your characters and your story, and so we kind of plopped this moment for the emotional stakes of our characters, and I think that's what makes it more compelling. And you can see they're sort of like coming full circle about the date night that we set up earlier in the movie in the first scene. Are they going to get together? Are they not going to get together? And then they've been estranged now for a while, and now here we sort of reprise that dialogue in a really fun way and bookend the movie and get on with a bit of action. So you can see, like, this is practical stuff. Like, it's pretty crazy. If I go back and I look at the approach shot, this is all in camera. And normally in a movie this size now, you may be doing this with visual effects. And there's a really compelling process of visual effects that could make this look great. But we really wanted to do practical stunts on this movie. So this is all in camera. The explosions are great, real practical explosions that are going off in the background. Ryan here in this over the shoulder is, he's riding the crane. And we have a camera inside the car, and Emily's inside the car. And when you do things like that, it just creates a different type of energy, and I think that the actors have they can act into the real moments, and they can give you really sort of compelling performances. And this is one of my favorite scenes in the movie, actually, because it's so sweet, but yet sort of has an action component.
Somewhere, wear a couple of swimming costumes.
Just drink a spicy margarita or something.
Yeah, we're prizing the swimming costumes and spicy margaritas. You can hear the score building, and then that helicopter's real. That is Fred North pulling the helicopter into shot. Also the jump. We had the Hummer parked on a rig that slid into the last 90 degrees. So then effects had built a track that we could actually slide it and be repeatable. And then we had a crane, and then we had put the helicopter on a buck, but all in situation. And Ryan does the jump. He's wire assisted, but that's sort of how you get sort of almost like this sort of, that the crane is propelling him. He has a little bit of a wire assist, but that again is 95% real. We're erasing some wires and safety, but we did that in the location. And again, it just feels more compelling, I think, when you do these things in situations. So yeah, it's a very heroic moment for Colt. There's a few fundamentals that stunt performers need, to get into the job. I think one is a certain physicality. It's a demanding job physically, and so you need to have been an athlete in some sort of discipline. Usually, stunt performers come in with some sort of knowledge of some discipline, and then they learn the others. It's kind of an apprentice business. So a lot of stunt performers come from extreme sports like motocross or gymnastics or parkour or martial arts, and they have that discipline, and once they get into the business, they mentor under a coordinator, and you start to learn the other things, but you'll always have that specialty. So my early conversations with Ryan were, I want you to do as much as possible. It's important to the character that, you can understand sort of the stuntman's point of view. So there's the first scene in the movie where we go through this elaborate oneer, and we're actually introducing all the characters, and we're sort of establishing that Jodie and Colt have chemistry, and we're setting up the relationship, and it's all this uncut scene. And there are no stitches in that opening oneer, and when we get to the top, Ryan's character Colt has to do a high fall on a descender rig. Just an everyday experience for a stunt performer. You know, you're like, oh, let's go again. I just did it. Let's go again. You know, and I think that was sort of like, that's a daunting thing to ask, to do all of that do a big stunt like that at the end of a oneer. But Ryan was really down for it and excited about it, because I think it was like a chance to really understand what's in a stunt performer's mind in terms of like how to prepare for that moment and how that moment could feel. And so he was always ready to jump in and do things. You know, we dragged him across the harbor bridge at 35 miles an hour. And obviously there's the fight scene in the club, and there's many instances in this movie where Ryan steps in and does the stunts that, you know, he was really capable of doing, and obviously could have done more. But again, in early conversations, because it was such a celebration of the stunt community, we wanted to embrace the fact that we were going to bring in some really big talent to do some really big stunts. And so to bring in stunt performers like Logan Holiday to roll the car and try and set a world record, or to jump the car 220 feet, like that's something you would never ask an actor to do anyway. But since we had this opportunity, wouldn't it be fun to celebrate those performers? And because it's a movie about a stuntman, it made sense. You know, a lot of times we don't want to break the illusion of how many people it actually takes to create your hero. Like James Bond is a composite character of, you know, Daniel Craig and 5 or 6 stunt performers, right? And you don't want to tell that story. You want to keep the illusion alive for the audience, but we have a special movie where it's okay to break that illusion, especially as we're leading up to the movie and you're kind of introducing these amazing artisans that are doing this stuff, bringing this spectacle to the screen. It was really a fun opportunity to highlight them. Doing stunts is high stakes, and you do have to rely on your team, and I think that's why there is such a brother-sisterhood with stunt performers. It's a small community of people who have to trust each other. A lot of times we're flying on rigs that are, you know, designed by your stunt rigging team, and you're on wires, and like you're trusting that your shackles are tight and that the wires are rated and all of that stuff. You know, Ryan had a real learning curve to learn to trust our rigging team. So in that first high fall sequence, the descender, we put him through sort of a progression of heights, and we took him out to a parking lot, and we had a crane set up, and we had some mats, and we, you know, he said, hey, this is how the rig works, and this is how the harness is, and this is what it's rated to, and this is the safety protocols we have, and these are the 2 separate lines that are all independent systems. And like walking him through the safety protocols that we have as stunt performers was like building the trust to actually get up on that platform and stand there, you know, 195 feet in the air and step off the ledge. You know, you gotta trust it. And it's not any different for a stunt performer, because you can only rely on your ability so much, but at the end of the day, there's also this rig. And so, you know, there's always trust. For example, the cannon roll that Logan Holiday did, we work with a special effects department to build a cage inside the car to protect Logan. And it's a lot like a racing cage, but it has some sort of specifics for the stunts that we're doing. And you know, you're sitting in the cage and you're looking at the welds and you're pounding them and you're like, I hope that they're, you know, the welds are solid, you know. And you're trusting the math, you're trusting the science, and it's not unlike magic, I guess, in a way. You know, it's like there's a lot of technical acumen that goes into creating these special moments, and there's a lot of risk for the performer, but we try to mitigate that risk with science and maximize spectacle, you know, with the collaboration of all the artists.
I'm gonna be sick.
You got this. You're the one.
Why you gotta say that? Why you gotta say that?
You've done this a million times.
And so have you. You know, you just jinxed it. It's a street steak.
Dan, I need to drive it in the car now, please. Okay, the tide's coming up. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Is that Jody?
Yes, it's Jody.
She say something about me?
Stop with your face. Stop it. Stop it. She didn't say anything about you. Get in the car!
This scene between Ryan Gosling and Winston Duke is like really dear to me because it is sort of the dynamic of a stunt performer and the stunt coordinator. You see Winston's character is like getting his big break. It's a big movie for him to coordinate, and he's got his sort of friend who's a journeyman stunt performer show up on set. And it's something that's very relatable to my colleagues in the stunt community. You're sometimes thinking about the stunt ahead of you, and you're sort of negotiating like how maybe they could shoot it a different way. There's some funny things that Ryan, he's such a great collaborator, and in this scene when he talks about the sand, there's a problem with the sand, and wait for the tide to come in to compact the sand. He had been listening to us talk about the stunt earlier in the day and how the sand was going to be a big question mark for like how the stunt was going to go. And he's like, oh, that's interesting. And being the sort of character computer he is, he kept put that into his brain, and it comes out in the scene where he's talking to Winston and he's like making excuses about the sand. And that was the fun thing about working with Ryan. Like, I think always observing, always adding things that, again, end up paying off big in the movie. He's really great at finding those discoveries on the day that just amplify everything. And that's just a gift that he has. So what I also think fun about the scene is, this sort of, again, sort of using this moment, an onset moment, to really just sort of like set up the anticipation of these two characters coming back together, and sort of like, again, we're gonna withhold that, and we're gonna use this moment to be like, is it gonna happen, is it gonna happen, and then we'll have a whole action bit before it happens. But I think it's fun in romantic comedies to where you can really like bring your character, the characters are constantly trying to come together and the audience wants them to come together, but you don't give it to them just yet, You have to just tease them enough. It's so effective when you have such great actors with such great chemistry like Ryan and Emily. Winston here had some great ideas about their characters, and we had talked about how the stakes for his character as a stunt coordinator were really high too, and he needs Colt to get in this car, and that was sort of something Winston brought to his character. He's like, I feel like if this was my first outing as a stunt coordinator, I'd want to do the best job possible because I knew my career depended on it. And so when great actors come to you as a director and they have really thought deeply about their characters, and they bring these fresh ideas, to the actual dialogue that's on the page, it's really inspiring, and I'm a director who loves that. Like, I long for that. I want actors that come in and like care so much about their characters that they have ideas about their backstories, they have ideas about their motivation, and like we can sift through those things and make it so much better. There's so many great moments of improv in The Fall Guy. I think Ryan and Emily are just brilliant at it, and being in the scene, in the moment, and reacting to their person in real time. And that's where I like to be with my actors and watch sort of the magic unfold. And there's a great scene in the lobby of the hotel where Colt is high and he's been, chasing the drug dealer through the streets, and he runs into Jody. He's surprised. And there's a lot of moments in that scene that are super endearing to Colt's character where he's like staring at Jody. You can tell he's like still buzzing, and he looks at her with this sort of googly-eyed, romantic look on his face. And he had a lot of great improvs in that moment. Some of them are on the cutting room floor. Some of them have made it into materials and things for interesting jokes. But he provided, again, like a great moment of vulnerability for Colt and humor. And just, I think wish fulfillment for, an audience that would like to see Ryan Gosling look at them googly-eyed. So it's pretty amazing.
Wright is missing. He has fallen in with some shady people.
Well, Gil, call the cops.
I can't call the cops.
Why not?
The studio will know that I am way over budget. They will pull the plug on this.
You know that. Please go and find him.
Why me?
You're a stuntman, for God's sake. No one's going to notice whether you're here or not. No offense.
I mean, some taken.
This is the, this scene is the classic scene, where your protagonist gets the mission. The difference here is that it's a stuntman, and they're not supposed to be noticed, and sort of we've set up that expectation and the sort of the ethos of Colt's character of like, we do the hard stuff, and we take the hits, and we don't get the credit, and we're not noticed, and we're underestimated, and I think that's what was really interesting about Colt as a character from the get-go, and I think that's one of the reasons that Ryan was so excited about it when we brought him the material. So this scene, Gail, played by Hannah Waddingham, comes in and gives him some history and backstory. What I like about Hannah as an actor is she was really able to create this feeling that Gail cares about Colt and that they had a relationship. And we had it built into the script, but you need that to come from an authentic place and a performance. And so when she sees Colt for the first time and she coming back, you really do feel for like their history and like they have known each other for 15 years. And the fact that she could ask him to do something like this, just is sort of perfect for their relationship and the fact that they're that close. And I do like that we do make a nod to how stunt performers are really how they're perceived, and she says sort of the punchline at the end of the scene, well, no one's gonna know if you're here or not, so you're the perfect guy for the job. I think ultimately Colt is probably a perfect guy for the job for many reasons. He really doesn't even fully understand are really actually great for this mission. The fact that he's a stuntman who can drive a car, who's not, who can fall, can fight, can get knocked down and get back up, actually makes him a great guy to go on sort of a mission that's this sort of harrowing. Obviously, we don't know it's as harrowing at this moment. There's also sort of like a subtle truth to the fact that actors and stunt performers can get very close with their stunt doubles. And a stuntman who's doubled an actor for 5 or 6 films, and in Colt's case, you look at the wall of posters in this scene with Gail, like, they've obviously done a lot together, that he would have that relationship where he could go find him and go to his apartment and ask him what's going on, is he okay? A lot of times as a stunt performer, you are sort of taking care of that actor in the sense of like, you're training them to do the action safely, and you are testing the rigs for their safety. And so they start to, there is a bond that's formed, and like they look at you for guidance on, anything that's physical in the film. So bonds can be formed and friendships can be made, and we see as the movie spins out with Colt that this is just only the beginning of like his experience with Tom Ryder. The trick of this scene was not only to set up this investigation, but it was really to set up the real stakes for Colt's character. And the real stakes for Colt's character was like, how do I get Jodie back? And the fact that maybe he could help her save her movie, and he could redeem himself in her eyes for ghosting her for the last couple years, that it was a really, really important moment. And I think that was something that came, we were constantly refining in the script, like, how do we land this for Colt's journey? How do we not just make this an investigation, in this sort of like, Shaggy Dog investigation, or, in the noir style. It was really like everything in this movie, ultimately, in a fresh way, I think, is connected to the love story and really connected to Colt and Jodie. And so having her pose it as Save Jodie's movie, it's not about getting Ryder back, because maybe ultimately he doesn't care. Ryder, in his eyes, is kind of like a lost cause, or like not really, he doesn't care that much. But when she framed it in the context of Jodie, well, now the stakes are really high for Colt, and it's like he doesn't want her movie to fail. It was a really important moment for us as storytellers to land on that moment.